Moore sang on the electrifying stage of The Voice Season 27 playoffs, which aired in Britain on April 28, 2025. That, in the middle of a quiet night, rang like a clear bell. The song, Keen Somewhere Only We Know, which calls for both emotional demise and vocal purity, catapulted the 20-year-old musician who plays with Adam Levine to the top of the music business. On a night full with high stakes and devastating eliminations, Moore's heartfelt performance and crystal-clear voice stood out. Consequently, he received a highly sought-after berth in the live performances and generated a surge of fan excitement. Let's investigate what made Britton so magical. Moore's playoff performance, which combined unadulterated talent, audacious song selection, and a hint of teenage fragility. Every artist must prove they are ready to compete in the fan-powered live events during the playoffs, which act as the Voice's crucible. Team Adam, which was led by the vocalist of Maroon 5 and was coached by the super mentor Lean Rimes, was under a great deal of strain. Along with his teammates Lucia Flores-Weissman and Ethan Ekinro-Connor and Colai Cordell, the challenging task of convincing Levine to keep James Moore in the final two was given to him. He took a calculated chance when he chose to play the 2004 indie pop hit Keen Somewhere Only We Know. The song's soaring chorus and delicate paean-driven melody demand a performer who can strike a balance between emotional release and control. For a young artist who is at a turning point that could mean the difference between success and failure, this is a difficult order. Moore exuded a sense of unpretentious confidence as soon as he stepped onto the platform. His unassuming appearance, which was disguised by his basic outfit of a navy sweater and jeans, belied the volume of his voice that he was about to release. Shortly after Somewhere Only We Know's opening piano chords started to reverberate across the room, Moore's voice came in like a sweet wind. Moore had a clear, simple voice. His opening remarks, "I walked across an empty land and I knew the pathway like the back of my hand," were delivered with such lucid clarity that they captured the attention of the audience right away. Britton's voice is like a warm hug, an admirer wrote on Twitter, describing the angelic nature of his voice. His voice has been complimented by fans on this site. How could Moore, who is only 20 years old, have been able to blend technical mastery with unadulterated passion, which was the hallmark of his performance that elevated it to a sublime level? Moore tapped into the melancholic core of the song, which is a sentimental tribute to a transient haven of solace. Keen's song serves as an example of this. His remarks were so intimate and even conversational that it seemed as though he was lulling the audience into a private memory. However, "Oh simple thing, where have you gone?" was the chorus that started to play. His voice filled the room with a controlled ferocity. Levine, clearly moved, leaned forward in his scarlet chair as Rimes shook his head in agreement from the sidelines. The coach's reactions were quite comparable to the audience's, which erupted in cheers when Moore hit the song's most poignant moment. Moore's vocal selections were flawless examples of dynamics. He was able to steer clear of the common risk of oversing during high-pressure performances. With the use of delicate falsetto flourishes and subtle vibrer instead, he let the song flow, which made the performance more intricate. His use of personal appeal and a youthful longing that resonated more deeply than ever before were evident in the way he framed things, especially in the bridge and "If you have a minute, why don't we go?" This wasn't a coincidence that it was sincere. The result was a performance that felt more like a genuine artistic moment than a competition showcase, as Rimes had advised Moore to sing from your truth throughout the rehearsals. Moore had clearly taken Rimes' advice to heart. The selection of the music in the first place was a brilliant move. Somewhere Only We Know is not a conventional vocal selection because it lacks the flair of up-tempo pop and the barrage of shouted ballads. Moore's modest beauty, which emphasized his talents, was a result of his clear tone, emotional clarity, and capacity for interpersonal connection. On social media, fans showed their appreciation for the risk by writing, "Britton's decision to pick Keen was brilliant. Even though the song isn't a show-off tune, he managed to make it remember." With this selection, Moore was able to show off his versatility in contrast to his previous performances, which had a more country influence, like Zac Brown Band's Free in the Knockouts. This change highlighted his adaptability and showed that he could be prosperous across multiple genres. Lev's remarks were quite encouraging. "Britton, you have this gift," he said, speaking in a tone that was tinged with fear. "Your voice is so pure that it can be heard through anything." This was a specific moment. Rhimes echoed the feeling, calling Moore's portrayal a journey that left her unable to speak. The coach's exaltation wasn't the only thing in the compliments. It was consistent with the prevailing feeling on the internet, where supporters called him a dark horse of the season. Even rival coaches Michael Bublé and Kelsey Ballerini shared their opinions, with Ballerini saying, "You made that song your own." Additionally, Bublé joked, "I'm stealing you for my Christmas album." There were certain issues that came up during the performance. Moore, one of the younger competitors, has received criticism for his lack of stage presence from the other contestants in earlier rounds. He addressed this problem directly during the playoffs by pacing the stage with intention and looking directly into the audience's eyes. His calm appeal and the S's meditative mood went hand in hand. The lighting, which was a soft wash of blues and purples, complemented his demeanor even though he wasn't as animated as some of his more showy teammates. Due to the dreamlike atmosphere this produced, the performance's emotional impact was heightened. Moore's ascent alongside Lucia Flores-Wiseman seemed to be earned but not guaranteed when Lavini's decision-making process was complete. The decision to cut Connor James and Ethan Echenro Colby Cordell from the starting lineup caused a great deal of debate. According to some fans, Echenro's original song ought to have been featured. However, Moore's emotional resonance and consistency ended up being the deciding factor. Lavini claims that Moore has boundless potential and youthful attractiveness, alluding to Moore's ability to grow throughout live performances. One fan shared their happiness by writing, "Written in the lives." Undoubtedly, the astute cover was nothing less than a miracle. Moore's performance was more than simply a way to move on to the next round. It was a statement that was uncommon in the glitzy world of The Voice. At the age of 20, he is making a name for himself as an artist who prioritizes authenticity over flashiness. His performance of Somewhere Only We Know reminded me of musicians like Passenger or Vance Joy because it skillfully blended pop music's accessibility with the sensitivities of indie folk music. Moore's modesty is immediately obvious off stage. He said in an interview with NBC Insider that the song reminded him of his hometown, a place he cherishes as he makes his way through the competition's maelstrom. The effects of Moore's performance are already starting to become apparent. Fans are expressing their desire for a studio version of his cover on social media, which is very active. Others question if Moore will ever perform live, but now that audience votes are being taken into account, his greatest strength will be his capacity to emotionally connect with people. His performance during the playoffs showed that he has the ability to bring a well-known song back to life, a skill that could help him reach new heights. The United Kingdom. As The Voice Season 27 draws nearer to the live performances, Moore has become a formidable presence in the background. He highlighted the idea that sometimes the most sincere voices have the most impact in his song Somewhere Only We Know. On the first night of the playoffs, Moore's understated brilliance stood out from the crowd and had a profound effect. There were a lot of vocal acrobatics and large personalities in this competition. A fan in Britton claimed in a tweet that Moore's vocals had recently won our hearts.